Yo guys, it's 252 Footy, and today we've got a boot showdown between the made in Japan Mizuno Alphas
and the Nike Mercurial Vapor 16 Elites.
These are two speed boots, both are really light. So I think a lot of you guys are going to be deciding whether you want to get some Mizuno Alphas or some Vapors. So let's get into the specs and what these boots are like.
Starting off with the upper. So the upper on the Vapors is a knit, very sock-like material, super thin, super pliable. There's no plastic coating on top besides the grip knit. The grip knit is very grippy, but there's no like full plastic coating that prevents the water from coming into the boot. They do get dirty, but overall just a very soft upper.
Yeah, so the upper on the Alphas is pretty different. It's a synthetic upper with a foam cage at the toe box, so it is not the grip knit at all in terms of cleaning it, which is honestly, it's not really important, but it's a lot easier to clean. And then what we also have is a separate tongue here. It's a really thin separate tongue. It almost just feels like a little piece of paper here, and it actually hugs to your foot really nicely, and it grips to your socks. So it does have an overall really grippy feeling on the inside of the boot as well when it comes to the upper.
Yeah, so that has like a separate tongue, an individual tongue, whereas the Mercs are this one piece. And let's move on to the Soleplate. So for the Vapors, it has a very responsive and aggressive Soleplate. Chevron studs, which are really aggressive for turning. And it also has the air zoom pocket at the bottom in the forefoot, which you do feel the cushion a little bit, but there's nothing too crazy there in the sense of speed or anything like that.
Yeah, so I would say that it's pretty similar in terms of sturdiness when it comes to the Soleplate. This is a pair of AG boots, so you got the circular studs, but it's really firm, stiff, everything you want in a Soleplate. It's me personally, one of the things I like about the Soleplate is that it covers the entire foot of the boot, whereas some of the Nike Soleplates, like on the Phantoms, they really don't cover this instep part of the bottom of your foot, and you feel the instabilities.
Next up, we could talk about just the overall fit and sizing. So as for the fit of these Mercurials, like I've been saying, it just feels like a tight sock around your foot. It really just wraps my foot perfectly. As for the lockdown, because the material is so soft, the lockdown is not the best. Out of 10, I would give it like a 6.5 to 7 maybe out of 10 lockdown. Not ideal for a speed boot.
Right, so I would say that the lockdown on these is pretty good considering how low the boot is. Like the top here, comparing just to the Vapors, you can see like that it really doesn't cover much of your ankle. It's really grippy on the inside. If you feel the inside, it's got some grip to it. So I felt pretty good lockdown so far. Yeah, so these boots, they come in a bit wider, I would say, than the Vapor. So, me personally, I have wider feet, and so it's really hard for me to get into a pair of Vapors. Whereas with these Mizuno Alphas, I haven't had much problems at all in terms of the width. And that brings us to an important part, which is the sizing. I had to go down 1.5 sizes from what I would go with Nike or Adidas to wear these Mizuno boots. So that's something you got to take into consideration.
The fact that the tongue is separate really helps if you have a wider foot because there's more adjustability in that. But yeah, I agree on the sizing. In Nike, I'm a 42 EU, and in Mizuno, I'm a 40.5 EU. So it's a big difference. I'm not sure the US sizing.
So yeah, definitely if you're going to get a pair of Mizunos, go down in the size. Do your research on that first, and ideally if you could try a pair on, that would be best. Yeah, if you just compare the toe box area, these are like, they have a wider toe box. These are more pointed, and these have a more rounded toe box to them. All important considerations, but I feel like now what we need to get into is just, performance. How do these feel in training, in games? What things stand out when you're using these boots compared to other boots?
All right, so for the Mercs, I've worn the last year's model of the Mercs, the Vapor 15s, and I like these more solely because of the grip. I noticed on the Vapor 15s, it had that smooth like plastic upper, and the grip knit on these is very noticeable, especially in the beginning. Now that they're so worn out, the grip isn't as strong, and everything else is great. The only problem that I have is that the lockdown is not perfect. My foot just slides around a little bit too much. Besides that, these boots are perfect for me.
Yeah, so yeah, like I said before, the lockdown in these I think is really good. Like from what you're describing there, I would say the lockdown is much better in these. In terms of how they feel in game, it's a really thin boot, similar feel, but so there's definitely some grippiness, not too much. Like in the Predators I had before, the edges, they had those little grip spots. That was just too much grip. This is a much smoother, elegant feeling to the boot, but overall, solid boot on this side. Definitely recommendable, especially, like I said before, wider feet, looking for a light boot. This is a class boot to look for. Yeah, I guess now we need to talk about just rating, and that's all.
Rating, yeah. All right, for the Mercs, I'll give them a 8 out of 10. Almost
Wow.
perfect without the lockdown. 8 out of 10. Yeah. Mizuno's.
In terms of the Mizunos, I'm gonna have to give them an 8.7 out of 10, just because of the feel and how much quality that you can feel in these, especially, you know, a made in Japan boot. You really do feel that extra quality into it. So I'm gonna give these an 8.7 overall. Well, that's it between our review showdown of the Vapors between Mizunos. Hope you guys enjoyed. Drop in the comments which boot you are going to be copying. Make sure to subscribe, like this video, and we'll see you guys in the next one.